The first thing I want to talk about is who is Lone Mountain Knife Co. and what can people expect from your channel?
Oh, all sorts of shenanigans. The elevator pitch, if you will, is I'm Twitch's most okayest bladesmith. I make knives and I say silly things. So I will sit here in this mess of a shop and hammer out stuff like this into knives, mostly for orders, but occasionally just for fun. And we just hang out and we chat and have a good time. I've got a lot of silly things that make me laugh, but yeah, I hit hot stuff.
You do all of this live, so you will do the work from start to finish on a given knife and stream the whole thing.
Yeah, where a lot of folks have probably seen knife making online, but most of the time it's really heavily edited, right? So what we're doing is live. You're seeing the whole process, the boring parts, the fun parts, and everything in between. There's a lot of boring parts. Standing in front of the grinder for hours or waiting for things to sit in an oven for hours while they go through part of the heat treating process. There's a lot of boring parts. So we fill that in with fun stuff or move on to other projects. So it's really a more in-depth view of what it actually takes to do blacksmithing, or in my case, bladesmithing, right? Specifically for knives and swords, because it is a long process and you don't really get a full appreciation for that in short, highly polished, highly edited videos that just show a couple of seconds of each step and then bam, here's your finished product. So we might spend an entire week or multiple weeks working on 4 or 5 different knives and seeing every part of the process.
You just mentioned that you'll work on multiple knives throughout the time you spend on stream. In a given project, like what is the range of time it takes from start to finish on a given blade?
That is very, very highly variable. It's really difficult to answer that question because of some of the complexities that are involved. So it could be anywhere from a couple of days to a month or longer. Where it takes towards the longer end of the time scale is really when you dive into very complex pieces where there's a lot of steps in making it. For example, I've got one of the holiday orders was a large set of explosion Damascus. It's a really pretty pattern, but there's a lot of steps because you're forging it out, you're cutting it, you're stacking it, and repeating that process 5 or 6 times before you can even get to the point where you shape it into a knife and then get to grind it and heat treat it and do handles. Because I do it all online and I still have an adult job and a family. A lot of you have seen Baby Lone and Steph on stream. Juggling all that means I can't just go nonstop. I have to plan when some of those stages happen, right? So I might do 2 sets of the forging one night and then 2 sets the next night, and then have to wait until the weekend to do all the heat treating because that has to all be done in one chunk. General turnaround time is typically, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks. There's a lot of complexity with that. It's like saying, hey, how long does it take to get a custom house built? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, just depends. Yeah,
exactly.
We talk about approach of being a maker and crafter streamer when it comes to the things that we all do. It's pretty common on this show where we talk to makers and crafters, but you're the first bladesmith, the first person who works like anywhere in that field of content. What would you think or say is the most interesting thing about what you do compared to, say, other makers and crafters on Twitch?
There's a handful of blacksmiths on Twitch that do general blacksmithing or various projects, but not specifically knives. And then there's 2, maybe 3 other bladesmiths and 1 swordsmith, and then 1 knife maker that I know of. So it's a very small number of people that do knives specifically. We're talking 4 at the most that are on Twitch. So not only is it very limited at this stage in terms of the number of people doing it, but I think for me, one of the big appeals with watching any of the smithing streams or the streams with metalworking or woodworking is, I don't want to say it's hearkening back to a simpler time, but it's keeping a craft and a skill that has been around since, I mean, we're talking thousands of years, right? Since the Iron Age, and before that, the Bronze Age. We're talking about a skill that's existed for thousands of years. And you're still seeing that kept alive and even being modernized, right? We've got power tools, we've got science and metallurgy that we didn't have thousands of years ago. But to me, it's incredibly interesting and gratifying to see those skills brought into the modern age. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons I really enjoy watching pottery streams. There's people that do ceramic pottery, and that's something that's existed for thousands of years. And especially when you get folks that are knowledgeable about those topics and can talk through that, that's the stuff that really captures my interest, because I can see something cool, I can maybe learn something and make a cool new friend. What
brought you to Twitch to begin with?
Short answer, TikTok.
How so? What happened?
TikTok is the short answer. Okay. So the full complete answer, and some folks may have heard me tell this story before. So when I first started blacksmithing, I found I was posting things online on socials, and part of that was Reddit. And I found some blacksmithing and bladesmithing subreddits, and through that got connected with groups in Discord. There's some Discord groups that are offshoots of that. Through the Discord, I met some, naturally become friends with people that you chat with more than others, and a few of those happened to stream on Twitch. I already knew what Twitch was. I'd been around many, many years ago when Elite Dangerous first came out. I streamed Elite Dangerous for a little bit, but never took anything seriously. Maybe 5 streams at the most. Different account, don't even remember what it was. So these friends, I created a Twitch account to support them in their journeys on Twitch, and they kept telling me, you need to stream, you should stream. And I said, it's not my thing. I've got in my mind, I'm saying I've got just not the face, not the voice, not the personality. It's just not, I don't think I would enjoy it. I think it would stress me out, and I would very much dislike it. And that conversation went back and forth for almost a year, a little more than a year, actually. At the same time, my older daughter, for those that don't know, I have 2 children. There's baby Lone, and then there's Lone version number 1. And she's an adult now. She's big. For years and years, she had been telling me, you need to do TikTok. You need to do TikTok. And I thought, I don't want to do TikTok. I don't like the format. I don't like the platform. It's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. So December of, now 2 years, not last year, but the year before. Right. So December of 2021, I finally caved in and I did TikTok. I set up a TikTok account. I posted a couple of videos, and my first 2 videos went small time viral. My very first video got over 50,000 views, a ton of likes. I got a ton of followers. So within the first week of being on TikTok, I got over 1,000 followers. So I was able to do lives on TikTok. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll try it out. So I dabbled with doing some streams in Discord with the blacksmith friends. And then I tried doing TikTok lives. I actually enjoyed the process of being live. I found that I liked it. I just didn't like being live on TikTok.
Right.
I don't feel that the platform is really best suited for that kind of interaction until you get to a point where you could potentially do it directly through OBS or another software. If you have to use a mobile device, it's very difficult to do things like I do and stream and still interact and engage with people because it's all on the little phone screen. So I thought, you know what? I like this. They've been bugging me to do Twitch for a long time. Why not? Let's do it. So I did. And so that I started on TikTok in December, towards the very end of December, like right around or right after Christmas. My very first stream on this channel on Twitch was January 20th. I went back through Twitch Tracker to figure it out because I had no idea. So January 20th of last year was my first stream on Twitch.
That's like 2 weeks away for the 1 year anniversary. Are you doing anything special for an anniversary?
I have no idea. Probably.
Probably.
I still haven't done anything for, I feel like hitting 2,000 followers is a big milestone. And I never did anything for that. I'll probably just do a 12 hour or more stream with, that's it. Just we'll hang out and we'll do whatever. Maybe I'll let the community decide what we make.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
We'll
awesome.
have to see. I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, first of all, on the 2,000 follows, but then congratulations
Thank you.
For hitting about a year here soon. What was that like getting started a year ago on Twitch? How was that for you trying to get used to the platform as well as doing what you do, which knowing that it's uncommon here on Twitch?
I didn't know anything when I started. I still have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know anything. That's people are like, how do you do this? I'm like, I don't know. I just hit the button and do the things. That's right. What I do. No, but in all seriousness, I really didn't know the scope and the breadth and the depth of the maker space or art space. I just went live. It was a little painful the first few weeks, because I didn't really want to invest in cameras if I decided I didn't like it and I wasn't going to stick with it, even cheaper cameras, because it's money I could put elsewhere.
Right.
So I used my cell phone and a cheap webcam. So I had a cheap 720p webcam that we've had for over a decade that never got used, just sat in a box. So I plugged that in, and I can't remember the name of the app, but there's an app that it's Droid Cam, I think might be it, for Android phones, and you can use that to sync your phone up as a webcam with your PC. So I used the two of those. It was a little painful because you don't really have camera controls with Droid Cam. You have to like click buttons and go around and remember where things are. So a little clunky at first, but after a couple of weeks, when I decided I really liked it, I decided to buy some cheap 1080p webcams off of Amazon, and that's what I'm still using today. Yeah. When it comes to my craft, other than the couple of blacksmiths I already knew, I didn't really know what else was out there, and I started meeting them, and through that process, one of the first things I actually did when I decided, you know what, I like streaming, I'm going to start doing this, because one of the friends that regularly visits the channel, he streamed. He was one of the ones that tried to convince me to stream. Mm-hmm. So he taught me about raids and all that stuff. So he would suggest people to raid. So I did get connected early on with some great makers that way. But one of the things that I did right out the gate was the night that I met you.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what, I really like doing this. I'm going to see what else is out there on Twitch. So I just went browsing through the makers and crafters category. Mm-hmm. And that night, it was a Friday or a Saturday, I don't recall, because I watched you both nights. But you were working on the Sonic set. You were working on the Lego Sonic set.
Yep.
And that was my first experience organically finding somebody on Twitch. And we just sat there and I chatted up a storm, and we talked all nerdy things from the 90s, and it was great. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I like this. And through that, I met all of the other brick builders. That led me to Freddie and Ace and Zach and AZ and Scotty, and probably almost all of the chat right now, if not all of the chat right now. So that short progression through discovering what was there, both through the help of friends and then also organically, really opened my eyes as to what's there and what Twitch could be, should be. Like, it's just incredible. It blows my mind still to this day.
I think it was incredible that you can point to that one moment and say, this was the time that I truly discovered, a chunk of the communities that I am in now, right? That it's a remarkable moment only because I think of all the communities that I myself have participated in on Twitch, this particular, the brick building and the makers and crafting crew, it's very clear when you make that connection, right? It's very impactful the moment you step into it. And so I think it's incredible that you, like many of us, have experienced the same thing. And you are admittedly on a completely different trajectory than the rest of us, right? Because you're a smith. You're not building bricks. You're not a 3D printer, which I think are the two bigger parts that are kind of together. And then you have art as well, kind of as a part of that. But I think it's incredible that you were able to find all of us. And then, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. You are, a big part of those communities that you frequent. And so I'm glad you found the stream that night. I really am. I've thought about the fact that you stumbled upon one of my Lego streams, and I would like to think that, it was a very lucky thing for everyone involved. I'm glad you came by. I really am.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was quite fortuitous, right? Because I could have been doing any number of things that night. You could have been doing any number of other things. It was just sheer random luck that I found the stream and found great people through the process. I think one of the most gratifying things for me about Twitch as a whole is, like you said, that the makers and crafters space is so vastly different in terms of openness, and even a lot of artists, not all of art, but most of art makers, crafters, we're all excited about sharing what we do and sharing what we love and what our passion is. And we want to bring people into that. It's not like what you might see in other areas where Twitch maybe, has, I wouldn't say a deserved, and I wouldn't say an undeserved reputation, but there's a reputation for toxicity or maybe less openness or less understanding. And you just don't see that often in this space. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool is watching communities grow and merge and blend together. And that's where I get a lot of gratification, is seeing, we've got our brick building friends, we've got our 3D printing friends, and they're just all blending together because we all do cool stuff and we like to share what we do. And there's good people. And then, the way I say it on my stream all the time, follows are free. We all say that, everybody knows that, but yeah, you never know when you're going to meet your new best friend, right? Yeah. You never know when you're going to find something cool that you didn't know you needed in your life. I grew up with Lego. I love Lego. I wish I still had all the Lego that I had growing up as a kid, but I don't. And then just by random chance, I stumbled across more and more stream, and here we are. Yeah. I feel like I've some of y'all I've met in person, and like you build real connections with people, right? Because it's, you're letting me into your life for an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours at a time, and vice versa, right? I feel like you do build real connections with people, and it's just cool to see.
I couldn't agree more. I believe that this corner of Twitch is incredibly passionate and supportive, and they absolutely show up in so many ways. And I think it's really cool that it spans across multiple categories or types of content. It's not just Lego. It's not just art. It's not just smithing or 3D printing. It's this combination, right? And these groups, in a lot of ways, cross-pollinate. You'll find Lego builders doing some 3D printing now, right? You see some 3D printers go the other way, build some Lego. You built some Lego on your stream. And it's really incredible because, I mean, we all have our passions, we all have our interests, and in a platform, or on a platform rather, they often have us hyper fixate, right, on a thing for success. They say, right, find a niche, stay in the niche, stay in your lane, and that's how you'll build an audience. And I don't think that's completely untrue. I mean, I think there's some truth in that, but I love the fact that you could start out in the makers and crafters side of things, and you can easily hop into other aspects of the content without, I think, people questioning it as much as you would say on the gaming side of things. I think it's incredible. And I love the fact that I can invite someone like you who is, a bladesmith, and we can chat about a lot of the brick builders just because you know a lot of them, or any of the 3D printers or artists that are out there. So I love it.
Yeah, I think it was a natural fit starting out. After the first few streams of meeting people, then when I got exposed to AZ and Zach and Ace, I just loved that level of ridiculousness and local. So that was, I'm like, all right, I found my people. I'm here.
Well, let's we got some comments in the chat that I do want to make sure we touch on. Dee the Human asks, did you ask about how or if streaming has helped your business? So the work that you do is indeed a business. You do a lot of, you have the ability to take commissions as well as just sell your knives on your website. How has creating content affected that side of the work that you do with knives?
Not a whole lot. There hasn't been a huge impact overall in terms of total number of sales, but it has had a tremendous and a profound impact, big picture wise. So, and I'm fully transparent with, with all of this stuff. It's things that I'll talk about during stream, or if somebody were to ask me, and that's that I when I very first started Twitch, and even before that, when I started TikTok, that was for me another avenue to get more sales, right? Because I did all of my stuff through, all of my sales prior to that have been through Reddit, Facebook, Instagram. So it's all from socials. I finally got around to setting up a website not long ago. I do web stuff for an adult job, so I wasn't too excited about setting up a website, but I did finally. But even that, all of my sales still come from socials. So TikTok was another social for me. Twitch initially was another social for me. It was an avenue to get exposure and get more sales. That changed very, very, very quickly within a few days of meeting you, and then by extension, the other people in makers and crafting in the brick building community and beyond, completely changed my mindset. It showed me some of the things that we had talked about a few moments ago in terms of the openness and the passion and just how amazing the makers and crafters space is. So it completely changed from this is an avenue to get exposure and build my brand to this is something that allows me to share my passion with other people. Sales and all that other stuff come as a result. If it all comes from socials, great. If it, that stuff will happen. Twitch, so right at the beginning, Twitch wasn't about selling knives anymore. It was just about sharing what I love to do. Now, with that said, because I have been focused on Twitch and not neglected, but sort of neglected my other socials, I'm not as active in posting things on there anymore. I still post all the work as it happens, but I'm not nearly as active as I was with posting the whole process. I'm posting finished products on socials, and I'm not really repeatedly posting things saying, hey, these are available, or if you're looking for commissions, right? So I've stepped away from the socials a little bit, and Twitch has filled that gap. There's been a lot of amazing folks on Twitch that have approached me and said, hey, I really like your work. Can I buy a knife, or can you make me a knife? And because that's what I do is I really focus on commissions. I do one-off, I do customs, or I'll do a batch, made to order, made to your specifications. If somebody doesn't know what they want, we work through that and figure out exactly what your specifications are. So that's why I say it didn't make much of a change, because it just picked up the gap that was left from socials when I started focusing more on Twitch and spending time sharing what I love to do.
So it's opened a lot of doors, is what you're saying. It's like it has connections.
Yeah, it has definitely opened doors. And what's one of the coolest things that happened recently is somebody came into my stream maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago at the most. It was before Christmas for sure. And they said, hey, what's up? And, they were a new chatter, first time chat. So of course I welcome them. And they said, hey, I own one of your knives. And I thought, you own one of my knives? I don't recognize the name. That's cool. What do you, and then we talked about it. It was somebody that had bought one of my knives, had commissioned something through the socials and just randomly found me on Twitch. They didn't know I streamed, and they're like, "Oh, you're the guy."
That's amazing.
I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I'm the guy." Or, a couple of weeks ago, I was in, I think it was Moko Maid's chat, and somebody was in the stream and goes, "Wait," because Derek was sharing pictures of the sheath that he made for the knife that I gave them to give away for one of their celebrations. And the person in chat says, "Wait, this person," talking about me, "made that knife? That's why I know the name. My husband watches that guy. He loves that guy." And I'm like,
that's crazy.
Small world. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of the role that Twitch has taken on for me or the doors that I would say it's opened, is that I'm starting to see that recognition, or, I'm getting folks now that are coming in and saying, "Hey, watching your stream really helped me, in my journey, figuring out my process as a blacksmith, or figuring out what I want to do, or how to even get started with blacksmithing." And that's gratifying to a level that I can't put into words.
That's incredible. That's incredible that you are making those connections and people are picking up on what you do, and they're also finding their way to your stream coming around in that manner, right? If they've begun watching your content and then decided they wanted something commissioned, or at some point they saw you out in the world already selling knives, and then they stumble upon your Twitch channel. That's pretty incredible. And the fact that you outlined earlier that there aren't many bladesmiths on Twitch, it's pretty incredible to hear that it's still opening those doors for you, creating those opportunities. Who do you even look to get inspiration for the type of stuff that you do on your channel? How do you even come up with what you decide is a reasonable content for your stream?
That's a very good question. Almost a loaded question. And
is it though?
Well, okay. So if we really want to get into the reality of it, right, where there is no secret sauce is the simplest way to put it.
Right.
When I started, there are things that I like. And like I mentioned earlier, the chaos and the silliness in Zach and Ace and local streams, and you all know the silliness I'm talking about, and the redeems and the chaos. I love that, and I'm drawn to that. Not all of that is really my vibe. Like I do like the silliness, and I've got silly things on my channel, but I am also not an incredibly hype, like animated person. And trying to be that just wouldn't be me. It wouldn't feel like, it would feel disingenuous or not authentic, right? So where I get inspiration is pretty broad and pretty wide. When it comes to the stuff that I make specifically, that's from very, very talented makers that I'll find online. There's a lot of good YouTube blacksmiths. When it comes to the channel point redeems and things that happen, that's my ADD. That's really what I've not decided, but what I really kind of fall back to is that something will take place in a stream that I find hilarious. I'm like, I need to do something with that. I need to make it a command. I need to make it a channel point. I need to make it a redeem. So, a lot of what I've taken inspiration from the Lego friends. I've taken inspiration from other makers and crafters, and I've just kind of made it my own. Initially I started trying to do things as redeems, like bit redeems, because I saw a lot of people having success with that. And I found pretty quick, like, yeah, that's not really my thing. So I started making things free, like the streamer bot commands. I just started making it free because I'd rather people there have a good time. If I felt like, for me personally, if I was asking people, like saying, here, you have to sub to do this, like that's, my stuff isn't, I don't feel that it's funny enough for or enticing enough for people to want to spend $5. So I'm like, forget it. Just make it all free.
Fair.
So that's why I say take some of that inspiration from the friends, and then I instead of looking at secret sauce, I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. Just be silly. I'll be myself and have fun. So a lot of it, like your custom shout out command on my channel is you in the banana suit saying, you're not my dad. I'm my own banana. I'm like, that's perfect. So I clipped it and cut the background out. And that's the kind of stuff I like to do. It's just whatever makes me laugh, I put on my channel.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a incredible melding of the different types of things you do see on Twitch, as well as in the communities that are in makers and crafting. And I think is fantastic. As a bladesmith, as someone who built or who creates knives on stream, how do you feel that, like, how is that challenging for you compared to what you would consider more traditional streams or other makers and crafters? How does that seem more challenging for you compared to the average streamer?
Keeping up with chat, I feel like I do a fairly good job of that, and I have a secret for that. It's not a secret, but it's a secret. People always ask me, how do you keep up with chat? Do you have TVs everywhere? No, it's my phone. I pull up the stream manager on the Twitch app on I don't have my phone, so yeah, I just pull up the Twitch app and go to stream manager, and then I take it with me around the shop wherever I'm at, so I can keep up with chat. The big challenge used to be remembering which cameras I was on. That was my biggest challenge, is switching the cameras, because I'd have to walk back to the computer and change it. And when I'm focused on a task, like this knife is going to burn, the steel is going to get ruined if I don't take it out right now, camera is not my first thought. So I switched all that stuff to voice commands so I can control it with just a statement. Now that's not my challenge. At this point, I would say I have two big challenges. Number one is I still always struggle with trying to keep chat engaged in the sense that, but I know my channel's a little bit different. I almost feel like my channel's more visual ASMR to an extent, where we've got a ton of amazing friends and a lot of people lurk. Either they're afraid to ask questions or they don't want to ask questions, and that's fine. You know, if I'm trying to spark a conversation and I don't really get much result out of it, then I don't want to push it. You know, I leave it where it is. But I notice myself missing it when we'll have a really busy active time. You know, we'll have some really chatty friends that are hanging out, and you know, we'll be going through a half hour to an hour segment where we're all very, very active, and then chat just kind of dies off and it doesn't sustain. And I'll notice that I'm kind of missing it. So my default is to fall back to just talking about what I'm working on. But I would say that's probably my biggest challenge. Other than that, I think not having a schedule at the moment is challenging, but you know, for the reason that I'm going nonstop basically until the move. So it's almost every single day I'm on doing the work. So it can be, I don't want to say exhausting, but it's definitely tiring when you have a lot of responsibilities. So, you know, having to be very mindful of not burning yourself out is definitely a potential challenge or a pitfall.
What do you say to people who feel like they're approaching that? What kind of thoughts do you have for people that are in that place where they're like, man, I can't do anymore. I don't feel like I can handle all of this streaming or whatever it is they're doing on stream. I can't do this all the time. What would you tell someone who is facing that mindset?
There's a couple of things. The first is that it's okay to take a break. You know, you might have goals. You know, you might stress about how taking a break would affect your goals, but that's okay. That's life. It's okay to take a break for a while and recharge your batteries, recharge your mental health. There's not a thing in this world that will run 24/7 nonstop without breaking at some point. Recharge. It's okay. Allow yourself to recharge. Now, with that said, if you're not at a point where you want to recharge, but maybe it's gotten old and you're struggling to find the motivation. For me personally, the way I look at that is do something different. At the end of and again, this is my stance on it. If I got tired of making knives, and I've done this, there's days where I've just not felt it and I need a break. So I play a game. If people don't want to watch that content, oh well. I don't want to say that I don't have goals, because I do have goals, but I stopped giving a hoot. I'm censoring myself if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's something that I learned a long time ago, but as time has gone on since then, I have not implemented it nearly enough, and I'm starting to implement that more. And that's focus on the things you can control and don't worry about the things that you can't. Right. So I can't control if somebody doesn't like, when I game or something like that. It's my channel. I'm going to do what I need to do. If that means I'm taking a break, or if that means I want to play a game or do a different project or try to learn a new skill, try a different craft, then I'm going to do that. The people that are there for you are going to be there either way when they're available to be there. Because, a majority of the folks that are hanging around with you anyway are there for you, not specifically your content. The content might have drawn them in, but that's not why they stay. They don't stay. It's a small part of why they stay, but they're there for you. Right. So, yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule, but anyways, what I'm getting at is do what you need to do to recharge yourself, whether that's changing up your scenery or taking a break or, doing something different.
Right.
Do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't focus so much on the results. If I do something different, I don't care if I get 1 million viewers or no viewers. I don't care. I did something different. So, and that's what I needed, and I feel good about it.
Thank you for sharing that. I think more people need to think that way. More people need to hear that. It's really easy to get caught up in the whole grind of Twitch, right? Or the grind of trying to grow this channel, which means for some people, they feel like they need to do a certain thing or the same thing or the latest thing, right? And they get stuck in that rut, and then they absolutely dread doing it. So thank you for pointing that out. I think more people need to think that way. I think more people need to actually stop and say, you know what? I need to do what's best for me in this moment. And if that means not streaming for a week or two or doing something completely different, then do it. I think long term, that is what will improve your mental health, right? Your whole approach to the thing. Because if you're stuck and you feel stuck, then something needs to happen, or you'll just quit. Do you see a place for more people to get into this space? Is this something you think that more people would want or should get into? Like maybe there's folks out there who are on the fence about doing this exact same thing. What would you tell them about that?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of room for it. I think one of my perspective is that discoverability has room for improvement on Twitch. There's not a week that goes by that I don't see somebody come into either my channel or another maker's or artist channel and say, I had no idea that any of this stuff existed on Twitch. I thought it was all games or whatever. For the past 6 weeks or so, it seems like anytime I've looked at the homepage on Twitch, it's like the Twitch homepage. It's been exclusively promoting music and gaming, and that's it.
Yep.
There might be 1 week out of the year where you see makers up there or artists up there. They'll do an art day or an art week, but there's a lot of room for improvement, and that's not complaining. Some folks, because there's a lot of Twitch hate that's going around. Yeah. It's a fantastic platform. Is there things that they maybe didn't handle the best or that they could improve. Yes, but
right.
There's just huge opportunity here. So discoverability, I think, is the thing to be mindful of, but there's very few people doing it. And for folks that are passionate about it and want to share that passion, there's the more the merrier. There's plenty of space. Come on, join me. Again, it's not the same environment as like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, where you're posting shorts and just filming snippets of what you do and then putting it all together, right? It's a long process with what I do. So, that's where that passion comes into play. But I think that comes through. So if there's other folks that do this kind of work and you have the passion for it, share your passion. People will see that. People gravitate towards that. If you are very passionate about something, even if it's maybe not an interest that somebody else shares, I think they notice it, and a lot of people can appreciate it.
What do you think it takes to get started as someone who does the sort of thing you do on Twitch? What kind of pointers would you give to someone who says, "Okay, I'm convinced, Lone. What do I need to do to get started on Twitch today?"
A cell phone and an email account. That's literally it. That's all you need. You don't need anything highly polished. Not that mine is highly polished. It's not. It's held together with duct tape. But that's okay. I like duct tape. Like I said, I started with my cell phone because I already had some nice computer equipment, because I got rid of desktops a long time ago and switched to gaming PCs, or I'm sorry, gaming laptops. So I've got pretty beefy laptops, and I didn't have a suitable webcam, so I just used my cell phone. Cameras on cell phones are phenomenal these days, absolutely phenomenal. And that was fine. I just didn't quite like, in my particular case, the latency with it being wireless. So I wanted a wired camera option. There's Blacksmiths, awesome. One of the Discord friends, actually, that convinced me to start streaming. He goes by Jack Frost. Streams on Twitch. All he uses is a cell phone. That's all he's used for years. He just has a little stand, and he puts his phone in the stand and streams from his phone. Streams on the weekends, and that's what he does. He just sets his phone up and goes to work hitting hot metal. So that's all you need.
I'd love to emphasize that, because I think there's a lot of, and we touch on this all the time on the show, but there's always that subsection of people who want things perfectly ready before they dive into streaming or any kind of live broadcasting. And I will echo your thought there, in that have, like, if whatever you got, right? If it's a cell phone, a laptop, whatever you got going, try it out. And then if you like it, if you enjoy it, then keep going, and then work on maybe some of the upgrades you might want to get over time. But with the sheer amount of technology that we all have in our pocket, that is the cell phone, it makes it really easy to just even try it. A lot of us, have phones or a laptop. I know a number of creators who started on their laptop and just tried it out. So absolutely.
Yeah. And in most cases, your cell phone is going to have a higher quality camera.
Oh, yeah.
Than any cheap webcam you're going to buy anyway. This camera that we're on right now is the C922 Pro from Logitech, and it's okay. It's not my favorite for streaming, but they're not expensive. They're like $80. I don't consider that overly expensive. And then the other two cameras that I use, one of them I'm using the ring light right now. That's a NexiGo camera I found it on Amazon, and I've got two of the NexiGos and two of the 922 Pros. I only use one of the Logitechs, and I use the two NexiGos for the hardware, and those were $60 to $80, I think. So it wasn't a huge investment, and they do just fine. Being in a workshop, it's a little different than maybe some other streams. It would be nice to have a DSLR or a mirrorless, but I'm not spending $1,500 per camera on something that's probably going to get destroyed. I'd rather buy, spend $80 on something, and if it lasts me a year, great. $80 well spent.
Yeah. How many cameras again do you have in your whole setup?
I only use 3. I have 4. I've never set up the 4th one due to a limitation on number of ports.
Right.
So I use 3.
You have 3 different cameras. And what does each, out of curiosity, camera, what are the different, I know you can't necessarily show them, but like what does each view bring to the stream overall?
Yeah, I can. I'm not going to flip cameras around, but I have, so the camera with the ring light, the LoneMountainKnifeCo that's above me right now is typically over here to my left, and that is on a tripod stand that I can move around. So that camera covers my forging press and the milling machine, and then the anvil, and then the Logitech stays up here, and that's the whole shop view in my streams. And then it's just out of frame up on top of the drill press. You can probably see the legs from the stand for it. That's the other LoneMountainKnifeCo, and that points at the grinder. And then once in a while, I'll turn it around to show the quenching tanks or the table back there if I'm welding stuff. So the grinder is almost exclusively for the grinder, and then the press and all the other equipment, that camera moves around based on what I need. And then this camera that we're on now stays here.
To get that kind of coverage across 3 different cameras, and then you use that with StreamerBot's voice control.
Yep.
To switch between them.
I do. Yeah, I set it up. I didn't initially do that. And chat always had a habit of not telling me when I was on the wrong camera, until 20 minutes later. And then somebody would say, "Where did you go?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here. I've been talking the whole time." "Oh, look, I'm on the wrong scene. That's why." So I set up the voice commands, and knowing my community, since my community is probably a lot like me in that they like to do some good nature trolling, I made sure to set my commands to be something that I would not say conversationally when talking with chat. That way I couldn't be tricked into accidentally changing my scenes.
Dee has another question, which I think this is great, and this is something that I had totally meant to touch on. Dee asks, what inspired you to start bladesmithing?
It's a story I've told many times, and I'm happy to tell it anytime. There's 2 components to this. Number 1, ADD. Again, that's what most everything goes back to. All of my skills stem from ADD, and the fact that my brain never stops. I have to constantly be doing something, constantly learning something. So I've got a huge, wide array of hobbies. The hobby that I did mostly prior to bladesmithing is what led me to bladesmithing, and that was rebuilding a Jeep. Many, many years ago, I started learning how to fix vehicles out of necessity at the time. Not necessity, but stubbornness, because I was not going to pay a dealership or a repair shop $500 to replace a $12 part.
Yeah.
I know how to use a wrench and a screwdriver. I'll do it myself. I'll figure it out. So eventually that led to me working on a lot of different vehicles and teaching myself how to do it. So I got the Jeep that a lot of you have seen when the garage doors open. The Jeep is right behind me there. Piece of junk, but I love it. All Jeeps are pieces of junk. And I tore that thing down completely and rebuilt it from the ground up. And part of that process involved learning how to weld. So a friend of mine had gotten out of the military not too long before that, and went back to school with the GI Bill stuff to learn how to weld. And he also took traditional blacksmithing classes at the community college there. So he got into blacksmithing and welding, and then he found out that I was rebuilding the Jeep. We were chatting. I said, "Yeah, I got to learn how to weld. I got to get a welder." He said, "Oh, I'll just sell you my old welder. I've only used it twice, and before I bought a different one." So he sold me that for 50 cents on the dollar, because it was brand new, basically, and taught me how to weld. And we were working on some pieces of the Jeep one day for no other reason than just we wanted to hang out. He said, "Come on over and we'll weld on the Jeep," because why weld alone if you can hang out with a buddy and have a beer? Yeah. So that's what we did. And then and keep in mind, this is Arizona, Phoenix, in the middle of August. So it's 115 plus outside. And he said, "Hey, you should try my forge." You should try forging. And I thought, I think I'm good. It's pretty hot. And friendly trash talking back and forth, and he talked me into it. So I tried it out and I was hooked. That was it. I swung a hammer a few times and I loved it. So I went home and started doing as much research as I possibly could. I was watching YouTube videos, reading forums, looking up digital books on blacksmithing and just figuring out what I would need to do to build a forge. Yeah. And I just went from there.
That's so impressive, dude.
So Jeep is why. My piece of junk Jeep is why I started bladesmithing.
You can thank Jeep for that, is what you're saying.
Yep.
How long in between when you started getting into smithing and starting Twitch was that window of time?
I want to say we're approaching 4 years now, but there's some major caveats to that. So when I first started messing around, so all told from the time I first swung a hammer until now, I think has been about 4 years. But I spent a few months researching and I built a forge. Wasn't that great, rebuilt, so it took me a few months to find a forge build that I liked, to build one successfully. And then I started smithing, and knives just really appealed to me. So I didn't want to do general blacksmithing. I just wanted to do knives, and that was it. So I did it for maybe a month, and then I had to put it down due to health issues. And then picked it up again about 6 months later. And then same thing, I had to set it down after about a month due to health issues. So the whole first year, I really wasn't doing any smithing, but what I was doing is reading and learning and teaching myself and, using Google University to learn as much as I possibly could and absorb information and filter out good info from bad info, so that when I finally was ready to start doing it, I had a good idea of what I was looking for and what I was doing. So I registered the trade name for the business in December of 2020. And I had finally felt good enough to start smithing again, maybe 3 or 4 months prior to that. And so I already had a good background of working with my hands. I had a pretty good artistic eye due to my other hobbies and stuff. So that I'd been spending all that time learning before picking up the hammer again for the final time, that it was very easy to get started and do things fairly well starting out. I feel like I had a better starting point than somebody going in completely blind, completely fresh, and not knowing a thing. So very early on, I had people saying, your knives are great, you should sell them. I originally didn't want to start a business. I was doing it for me.
What got you into that mode of like, I should start a business, or I should?
When I started getting feedback from complete strangers online. So, I would get feedback from family and friends, and it's not that I didn't value their feedback, because I absolutely do. But there's a part of you that, because it's natural for most folks to not want to hurt their loved ones or people they care about. So their feedback maybe isn't as brutally honest as you might want it to be in that situation. So, when Steph or her family or my friends would be like, those are awesome, you should sell those knives. I'm like, yeah, but you're just saying that. I don't think you really know. So I didn't really give their feedback the same weight that I would to somebody that knew what they were looking at or what they were talking about, in terms of the craft. So when I started getting that kind of feedback from folks online and people saying, hey, I want to buy your knives, I thought, okay, maybe the friends and family are right. Maybe I should look at doing this.
Right.
And then I went back and forth for a few weeks on it. And then I decided, you know what? Why not? You only live once. I said, YOLO, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I registered the trade name and went to town.
Yeah. That's really cool. So you start learning the craft, and it sounds like soak up as much knowledge as you can over time. A couple of years later, you're at the point where you've not only learned enough of the craft to start your own business, you decide that, hey, why not promote it on socials? Starting with TikTok is one of them, right? And then you eventually find yourself on Twitch. So that's kind of the quick version of the journey. Where do you anticipate or hope that Lone Mountain Knife Co. goes as both like a brand and a channel?
That's an amazing question. It actually, the answer to that ties into my goal for 2023. My goal for this year, it's a pretty lofty goal, but my goal for this year is to be able to go full time, which would also mean full time streaming. But there's a big but there. I'm not looking to go full time streaming as my means of support, my means of income. I'm looking to do the knife business full time. So I want my knife business to be able to replace my adulting job. That's a very tall order, a very tall task, but the situation that we're going to be in after the move will potentially facilitate that more easily is what I'm hoping. So I am going to be working very hard to see if I can't make that a reality this year.
Yeah. Is that a matter of just sheer amount of commissions and sales on the shop that would enable you to do that?
Correct.
Yeah.
So part of the goal would include doing trade shows. So they're the big one that most folks would be familiar with if they watch, Forged in Fire and shows like that would be Blade Show, which is put on by Blade Magazine, which is still around. And so they, at different times throughout the year in different regions of the country, they'll do Blade Show. So there'll be a Blade Show West. There's, I think the regular Blade Show is typically in Georgia. There's Blade Show Texas coming up. But so not only do I want to be an exhibitor at those, I also want to do local trade shows. I'm sure everybody has a major city near them where every few months there's a knife and a gun show. Not everybody, but in a lot of states, especially
right
out in the West or in the Midwest, you have knife and gun shows like that come into the convention centers. So those are the things where I want to start exhibiting, which means, so part of my business plan is going to change where I still want to primarily do commissions and I'm going to focus on commissions. And that's what most of my content will be. But if I'm going to do trade shows, I need to have an inventory to bring to those shows. So I'm going to have to have a handful of regular items, right? Just like a regular signature model, if you will, that I can crank out batches of and bring those to those kind of trade shows. If I were able to exhibit at the trade shows, I think honestly, that's probably where a bulk of the income would come in for the year from the business, but it would also facilitate doing it full time.
Very cool. I'm glad that it sounds like you have a good plan in place, right? In terms of trying to get there. So I'm glad that you're working towards that. I'm not sure how relevant this question is. I am Samoth asks, would you like to do a thing where your brand would essentially get licensed to other places or places that could sell your knives? Is there some kind of goal you have in mind? Are you pursuing that particular kind of outcome?
Yeah, that's a great question, but no. That's
the whole thing, right?
Well, I should take a step back and say, depends on the money. I mean, if somebody wanted to offer me, $10 million for my company name and whatever my signature style of knives were, sign me up. I'm in. Let's go.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. I can start making knives under a different name. I'm fine with that. I can still stream, but $10 million would do a lot. But no, there's no plans for licensing. I think where that question really goes is you can find a brand of knives called Schrade, SCHRADE, that at one point, or like K-Bar knives, the K-Bar company started, as a small little business that grew and then changed hands and got bought by various companies or like Schrade, their name might be licensed to be used,
right.
And to produce lower quality lines or other like in that kind, like, no, I'm not that's not anywhere remotely in my future.
It sounds like trade shows and just getting more people interested in the knife as a brand where they can do commissions and requests or just shop off of your online store. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think most of the folks that are interested in commissioning knives, let me take that back. So Twitch is a huge opportunity to broaden that audience in the sense that like a lot of the folks that have ordered have been Twitch friends that prior to us interacting and them seeing the stream and hanging out and us getting to know each other, never would have thought in a million years about getting a custom made knife.
Right.
It's not a thought that just pops up day to day. And the folks that are interested in that kind of stuff, in quality custom made knives, things that can be passed down to your children, like things that'll last a lifetime if you take care of them. Folks that are interested in that kind of stuff, you know, those are the folks that you're always gonna find, right? Those are the folks that are gonna be at the trade shows, that are gonna be interested. And yes, it's nice to build a recognition with them, but exposing that to a broader audience, and now there's more people that are interested in that because of shows like Forged in Fire, where they see these shows and they go, oh, custom knives are a thing. People still make knives. You know, that's really where I try to focus, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
You know, again, the folks that are really into that stuff in terms of custom knives, like they already know what they're looking for, what they want. They know about the craft and about the hobby because that's a passion of theirs. So it's a little bit different with the folks that are just discovering it and didn't really know, and then that's their first entry into that world. Is wow, I didn't know knives could be nice like this. I didn't know they could do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that I am that person in that I didn't know about that until I met you, and that this was something that getting a custom knife made had all these things that you could just get done, right? I didn't know that you could even do that, and I think that's where your particular content and your channel is really, really awesome, because it creates awareness around that concept that you can actually get that sort of thing done. And I see that on occasion when I'm in your channel. People who don't know that either are discovering that in real time while they're watching your stream. So that's very, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. I do hope that you eventually get to go full-time knife smith and be able to do this as your main gig. So I wish you the best. I've been linking your website in the chat as we talk.
Oh,
and so
I appreciate that.
But it's LoneMountainKnifeCo.com, just like your actual channel. It's also the website where you can go to commission or just buy different blades that you happen to have ready to go, right?
Yeah, occasionally, it's not often, but occasionally I will make knives just for fun, or I might have leftover material and I'll turn that into stuff that I can list for sale.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure that link is also in the podcast notes as well as the YouTube VOD. So we'll put it out there, and I highly encourage folks who are interested in just even seeing what Lone is making is to check out the site, because you have pictures of a lot of the different blades you've made up, and it's a really great place to just even see what the work looks like. I definitely jumped in pretty early on to see it when I first met you, and I was like, oh yeah, this dude's legit. He's doing it. So that's exciting.
I try.
Yeah.
And full time isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I think it's a matter of just time, honestly. And I guess, let me rephrase it. I hope it's sooner than later for you. So I do wish you the best of luck on that. We could chat all night, man. We've done that via in hanging out in each other's streams. Were there any particular things that you wanted the listeners or those tuning in to get to know more about you? Was there anything you wanted them to know about you and or your content or your channel or what you do that we didn't get to touch on today?
Yes. Super big one. There's two parts to it. And yeah, if you get me going, I could talk all night. So, feel free to just be like, Lone, shut up. We got to go. But something that, and I'm going to be a bit long-winded here. I'm going to preface this with everybody, and not that anybody would necessarily listen to me, but in your own channels, do whatever you want, right? Like run your channel the way that you want to. So this is not directed at any single person. That's my preface. In my channel, I am really trying to break the stigma around certain pieces of Twitch etiquette, mainly self-promotion. I understand why that rubs people the wrong way. Or why it could rub people the wrong way, or maybe send the wrong message if it's your first time chat and you say, hey, I do what you do, streamer, but mine's better. Check me out. It's maybe not the best first impression. However, whenever somebody is in my stream, and this applies only to my stream, I don't control anybody else's stream, but I'm hoping that enough like-minded people, because there are others out there, started embracing some of this, and that's feel free to self-promote. Personally, I made my shout out command open. So the exclamation SO, the old school shout out command, that's open. Anybody could use it. Surprisingly difficult to get people to actually do it. Maka and you more and more, and I don't know how many other people are very resistant to shouting yourselves out. And along with that self-promotion and encouraging self-promotion and talking about what you do, because yourself and so many others are just incredible people, incredible content creators, and y'all have shown me so much love and support that I want to pay that forward in any way that I can. And the way that I see it, not everybody is going to vibe with me. Not everybody is going to like my content, or maybe they get bored, or maybe it's just not their thing that day. Or maybe I'm just not their cup of tea, period, but they came in on a raid and just happened to get lucky that circumstance, the same way that I just happened to be browsing Twitch and found more and more. Maybe they just happened to be there at the moment that you or somebody else shouted you out. And then they become the next Lone, where they find more and more and they're like, this is my jam, this is my guy. And they find something that they didn't know that they needed. Because I think being able to talk about what you do in the right way and in the right context can be more powerful than folks realize. And the importance of talking about what you do and making those connections, like you never know when that connection might be made, right? Mm-hmm. So I want people to feel comfortable talking about what they do when they're in my channel. And that includes any art that they do. Even if you don't stream, we always encourage people sharing art. We call that sharding. Share art, shard. Yep. We love it. I absolutely love it. I will stop what I'm doing. Not all of the time. There's certain times where I just can't, but I make it a point to go in if somebody posts something in Discord or posts a link in my channel, because I have opted to be link friendly. We will pull up your art and I will share it with the rest of the stream. We will take a look at it because you spent the time to make it and you spent the time to share it. And again, not everything I do is going to be somebody's cup of tea, but maybe something that you do is. And I'd rather make those connections and bring people together in that way and expand the makers and crafters and art spaces. And I realize that approach isn't going to be right for everybody. Mm-hmm. But for the folks that do like that idea, I want to try to normalize that a little bit more. Yeah. The unspoken Twitch etiquette, that's not a terms of service thing. That's not written down anywhere. Yeah. That's just what the majority has decided is best practice.
Yeah.
Why can't we change that paradigm?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in the fact of people should be willing or willing's not the word. People should be free to talk about their content. I think it's really, like you said, like the context in which it comes up. And I think that's what's more frowned upon than anything, right? When you're streaming as a streamer and someone comes in who, I think it's really the people who come in with the thought of, hey, I just want to talk about my stream because I want other people to come to my channel.
Right.
Like, I think malicious isn't the word, but I think it's like they're not reading the room correctly. And I think that's 100%. why it's considered etiquette, right? Etiquette is about reading the room, the context of the situation appropriately and acting in line with that. So if it's normal to talk about your channel or other channels in a community, which is honestly the way it works in most of brick building. Like, most brick building streams are very cool about that. Then yeah, by all means, go ahead, talk about it. And I'm with you 100% in that. I think it's really the folks that come in who have zero connection to the channel and the community, who have no intent to get to know the channel, but they want to talk about it because, hey, I'm also a streamer of blank blank. You should come over to my stream. See ya, and then leave, right? Like I think that's where people get like the ick, right? The bad feeling about that, right?
Yep. And that's incredibly valid.
Yeah.
That's very valid. And if that happened, like I don't really see that happen personally. And like, right. I'm not telling anybody how they should run their stream or and you're right. The makers, the brick building and a lot of the maker space,
yeah,
is like this, where we do encourage that kind of self-promotion, or, again, like you said, reading the room. That's why, I said, I completely get where, if you come in your first time chat or whatever the scenario, and the first thing you say is, hey, come check out my stream. Yeah, it's probably not going to sit right with a lot of people.
Right.
In my channel specifically, I don't care. Because here's the other thing, is that it's very transparent. That to me, if the first thing you say is, because that I allow self-promotion, and the first thing you say is, hey, come check out my stream.
Yeah.
And there's no other conversation. You're not hanging out. We're not getting to know each other. Okay. You're just looking to try to build yourself.
Yeah.
And that really ties into questions that a lot of folks have asked about, how do I grow? Or, folks have asked me, because I've been doing this for almost a year now, like, what do you do to get that many followers? Well, yeah. I network, but I network without an ulterior motive. I look for cool people that have a good attitude that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I look for people that I can hang out with and chat with and enjoy what they do because they're good people. And that's it. There is no other motive. Which ties back to what I said earlier, where I started Twitch with it being another avenue to promote my knives, and that very quickly changed. My mindset changed almost immediately because of the interactions that I had with people like yourself. And that's the same approach that I take to networking. Don't go into it looking to, how can I grow myself?
Right.
Just get to know people and be a real person and talk to people and have fun.
Yeah.
And that shines through, including in things like, self-promotion, right? So if you're listening and you stop by my channel, even if it's your first time chat, I'm not going to get mad at you if you want to self-promo.
There you go.
Do it.
Absolutely. And I agree with you in the spirit of, hey, people should talk about their stuff and be able to discuss what they're working on more. And admittedly, you called me out on it. I don't like doing that in other people's channels. That's just a personal thing. I'll jokingly shout you out in your own channel. So
not anymore. I blocked it.
You blocked it? Oh, yep. Man, I haven't done it in a long time. I think because I stopped having fun with it only
because everybody started doing it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
And there were a
it.
handful of, there were a couple of people that had used it to the point where the joke wasn't funny anymore. So
Okay.
I blocked it.
Yeah. Well,
and it wasn't you. It wasn't you, but
read the room, right? Like it's about,
yeah.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you in that people should feel good about talking about what they do. I think that it's just about being appropriate about it, and you heard it here. Lone has always given permission to talk about what you're up to in his channel. So there you go. If you're a creator and you find yourself in his channel, feel free to mention what you do.
Please do it. It's so hard to convince people to do it.
It's true. It's difficult. When I joined the brick building community, it was very clear the stance in general on the whole thing. And it, as someone who has been on the platform for a long time before being a part of the Lego community, I quickly noticed it, and it was refreshing in that I knew that I didn't have to not like, again, I'm not that I'm one to talk about my stuff freely in a channel, but it was refreshing to know that creators in general could talk about their stuff while they are in another channel, as long as it's relevant and as long as they have that freedom to do so. So I'm glad that you share that spirit. I'm glad that you, and as someone who you frequent other brick building channels often, you know that how widely accepted that is. So I'm glad.
Yep, 100%. And I wish I had more time to chat. A lot of you might not see me chat as much because as I've gone through this journey, I've met so many friends that it's so hard to give everybody the full attention, but I am lurking. I am there. I am peeking in on all of y'all pretty often throughout my work day. I typically have 20 to 30 tabs up at any given time with all the streams. So it's just hard to,
I get it.
Hard to keep up because, I was talking with Potchfat about this, that I don't like to start a conversation in your chat if I'm not going to be there to be engaged and finish it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like starting a conversation and then I ghosted you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I was going to say I'm the same way. I don't like to start a conversation unless I know I can stick around.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Because I'll get distracted and then start talking when I really should be or need to do something else.
Yeah.
But if it helps you more and more with the self promo, or if it helps anybody else that's maybe feels icky about self promo in my channel, think about it this way: it helps me because I don't have to stop what I'm doing with potentially dangerous, hot, or sharp objects to walk over and then give you a shout out.
Fair.
So maybe it's not so much self promo. Maybe you're just helping me.
There you go. We're all helping out a little bit. Before we sign off for the evening, I want to make sure people know where to find you. So twitch.tv/LoneMountainKnifeCo, right? And then LoneMountainKnifeCo.com is where you can find the ability to get commissions or submit commissions to Lone.
Yep.
Where else can they find you, or what other places should they look for you at?
So on pretty much all of the socials, it's at LoneMountainKnifeCo, CO, at LoneMountainKnifeCo. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of here at LoneMountainKnifeCo. On my panels in my about section on my page, there's a link to my link tree, which has all of that stuff on there. And that's also Lone Mountain. So it should be whatever the link tree is. It's like linkt.ree or linkt. I don't remember, but it's linktree /Lone Mountain Knife Co. So that's got the links to everything. I said I did set up the website. Honestly, the best way to contact me is shoot me a DM, either on the socials or in Discord or on Twitch. I do check the emails on the website still, but it's just easier to use the socials. So, whatever's easiest for you is easiest for me.
There you go. I found it.
Or just pop into chat.
There you go. I went ahead and linked that. I'll make sure that is in the notes for the podcast in the YouTube. But linktr.ee/LoneMountainKnifeCo. It's been an absolute blast hanging out with you, Lone. It is one of my favorite things is just seeing you in my chat or being able to roll by your own stream and hang out and not shout out myself. But man, I love what you do. Fun note for people who are longtime listeners of the show. He helped name it. It was one of the suggestions he had made. And so I said, I like that a lot. Let's roll with it. Let's use crossing the streams. And so you all have Lone Mountain Knife Co. to thank for that. I want to make sure that's known. But thank you, man. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being a part of this community, being a friend of the stream, being a friend of the podcast, and being a member of not just my community, but so many other wonderful makers and crafters, brick builders, everyone that I know. You and I frequent a lot of the same channels, so I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're on Twitch. I'm glad that I could call you a friend. Thank you for being a friend, Lone.
No, thank you. If it weren't for this might sound cheesy, but if it weren't for you, I would not be here right now having this conversation.
I don't know about that.
Among other people. It's not entirely you, but you were a big part of it.
I appreciate
you were why
that.
I'm here, and I am happy that I met you, and I'm happy that I can call you a friend.
Thank you, man. The feelings are the same. I know you just gave your thoughts on etiquette and being a creator, but as is tradition, I would love to have you just close out the episode of the recorded portion with any final thoughts, any last minute Lone Mountain Knife Co. isms. How would you like to close that out? The floor is yours. The camera is on you. Go for it.
Fantastic. I've got some excellent words of wisdom for you, friends. Always remember, if you light a fire for a man, he'll be warm for the night. If you light a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life.